We're delighted to say a very good morning to the Nemo Rangers senior football captain, Luke Connolly. Morning, Luke. How are things?
Morning, gents. How are you? Well, thank you.
Keeping well. We were just chatting to Lee Keegan there. Westport's first ever senior championship title in Mayo, and he's still recovering from the celebrations. You're for yourselves fifth county title in 8 years for Nemo Rangers at the weekend. 116-2-9 win against St Finbarrs. Regardless of how many you've won, Luke, I'm sure each one is all the more special.
Yeah, look, that's probably a club ethos as well, but the next one is the most important one. But I certainly won't tire of winning a county medal anyway, and I hope there's many more to come. But look, we treat everyone as special. I would imagine Lee treats his one fairly special. I think this is our first in 9 maybe. So look, we're not naive or oblivious to the fact that it's not an easy thing to win a county. So we're certainly not going to lose the joy of winning one.
How were the celebrations for yourselves down in Nemo?
They're good. I'm glad he asked to speak to me this morning, because I think my voice on Tuesday morning wasn't working. So,
Lee was the same. Funny.
I've had a day now to recover. So no, look, it was fabulous. We won a delayed county final, kind of on the tail end of COVID. So it was very subdued. So I think it was there was a serious release of joy and emotion in the club, and a lot of people were able to experience it together. So it felt fairly significant.
You found your parents at the full-time whistle, Luke. Like the community feel and seeing people you know. I mean, that must have been quite an overwhelming emotion.
It was, and to be honest, I think it did actually overwhelm me for a brief period. Look, everything that happened this year with the way the year was falling, centenary year, being captain. As I said in an interview, I pride myself on being calm and not letting anything affect me. But I think when I found my father, it was a bit of a mess for a couple of seconds. But I pulled it together, thankfully. But no, look, as I said, for some reason this year it just felt significant. It just felt like an outpouring of emotion. And look, just fabulous to see the crowds that we were able to go out there, and there's so much black and green on the pitch.
What is the club county contrast like? We kind of spoke to Lee about this, and you do hear it year and year again, like that. These are the lads you grew up with.
Like there's fellas there I played with. Like I can think already of 6 lads I played with since I was 4 years of age. Lads I've been in school with, lads that I mean, the other side of it too is like growing up watching some of these players like Paul Kerrigan, some of our management team. Garrod O'Shea. I remember Garrod O'Shea coming into school with the cups and John chairing these lads, and now I'm working with them or playing with them. And as I said, look, I'd imagine every other player talking about their club, it's that sense of community. It's those fellas you've grown up with and played with all your life, as opposed to, look, county, don't get me wrong, it's fabulous, you play with great players, but there's just that sense of, I don't know, it just means more when it's within your club colours. You
mentioned Paul Kerrigan as well. Like, it must be so special for him. I know he's not like necessarily going to be lasting 70 minutes now or whatever, but at this stage of his career.
Yeah, and I mean, I hope he doesn't mind me saying it, but he did say to a few lads after the game it was probably his favourite county. And look, obviously, there was a bit of that shock when he was left out of the team in the semi-final, I think it was. But I mean, look, Paul is a professional, always has been. The way he's carried himself and the influence he's had when he has come on has been huge. And it's small stuff that goes unnoticed. I think I've rewatched the game, and there's 2 short free kicks that he wins. That at a late stage in the game, not many fellas are running to get the ball when you're under that much pressure. So look, he's the utmost professional, but I mean, it's hard not to admire the guy.
The management team, that must be like, it must take balls, and kind of you must have trust in them to know that they're doing this for the right reason as well. It's like just preserve his legs for the second half, more or less.
Huge. Yeah, look, I mean, at the other side of it too, it was a massively brave call, but I suppose you got to appreciate what the management team done. The other side of it too is, look, you have to give a shout out to the likes of Luke Horgan and Rowan Dalton, who were 2 players who put their hands up the past couple of weeks and how they performed and made that decision. So as much as you can praise the management, full credit has to go to the lads who forced their way into a team, which you don't really see in a run like this. Usually the 15 is set. You always hear that kind of cliche, look, there's places up for grabs, but I don't know, do many fellas believe that. you know, when you're sitting on the bench for many games. But yeah, look, full credit to both management and the lads, but I think most credit has to go to Paul and the way he handled himself, and how he's brought those lads on.
Strikes me, Luke, and I'm just thinking here of the famous clip of John O'Mahony in the A Year Till Sunday documentary, where he has the newspapers up on the dressing room wall and the fancy dans and all this. Like, for a team that's so successful, Nemo, in recent years, you were fairly criticised coming into the final. I know that's something that kind of maybe stuck in the craw of yourself and a few of the players, and maybe that was based on a quarter-final performance this year, but was that the motivation? Was it to prove people wrong? Do you feel like the team was maybe disrespected this year?
I suppose I don't want to get too carried away with that either. I suppose some of the interviews we done straight after the game, there was probably a bit of raw emotion leading into us really leaning on the whole being criticised. Now look, we were criticised, and don't get me wrong, the quarter-final we didn't play well. The group game against Clan was probably a different scenario where we were already qualified, and I suppose they were looking to avoid being dragged into relegation battles. So it was kind of a different mindset. But yeah, look, the other side of it too is for me personally, I felt that the group itself was probably a little bit disrespected. And that, look, I'm talking more about the collective than individual players. You know, you've got, if you don't mind me going through a few lads, like you've got Conor Horgan, who was a county final man of the match in 2015, is still putting out fabulous performances for us, and has had back-to-back, I think, 3 in the semi-final and 1-3 in the final, you know, and probably should have got man of the match given the goal he got. You know, you've got the likes of Jack Horgan, again, I think he was man of the match in the 2017 county final, is still putting out brilliant performance for us. So we just felt that as a group, you know, there's a lot of lads in this panel who've achieved a lot and have done a lot for this club, and we just felt that they were being written off based on that performance, and it was a kind of everything that went before that was forgotten, we'll say.
Like, it strikes me, and like I spoke about motivation and trying to get yourself motivated when you're a team that's so successful. There's a great quote here. Excuse me, Luke. There's a great quote here from club legend Jim Cremin, late club legend down in Nemo, before he passed away. The most important player to play for Nemo hasn't been born yet, and it's up to the senior team to keep that fire burning. Like, it's a great quote, and it's a great way of looking at it. Like, that the best days are ahead of you, kind of thing.
Yeah, and to be honest, look, obviously the late great Jim Cremin, there's so much stuff you can say about the man, but I just remember, particularly after the 2020 the late county final, it was Paul Kerrigan. It seemed to be always talking about Paul up smart. It was Paul Kerrigan who actually said it, and it just stuck with me since, and I think it kind of encapsulates the ethos of the club. And what it means here for Nemo Rangers, you know, and I suppose it encapsulates how we feel about the club as well. You know, it was actually a former teammate and a club member. I remember after the semi-final, and it was something again like this that he said to me that stuck with me, is that after we won, I think a few lads went over to some of the young kids who had come all the way down, and just small stuff, gave him a high five. And he said, you actually don't understand how important those kind of small things is as opposed to a result. And the way he clarified is, he asked me, what's your first memory of a county final with Nemo, or going to one? And I said, I remember going to see, I don't even remember the year, I think Nemo played Bishopstown in the county final. I was a kid, I think we went to school, and I couldn't tell you the result. I couldn't tell you who played. I couldn't tell you whether, no, Nemo did win as far as I remember, but I couldn't tell you anything about the game. But I can remember, I think, was it Colin came over, and I know he waved at a couple of the kids in the stand, and that's the memory I have of that county final. So it was only when he said that to me, I kind of said, you know what? Yes, love winning. It's great for us, but you know, in the grander scheme of things, it's much bigger than us. Days like that.
Like, when you celebrated, it was your 30th yesterday as well, was it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, thanks.
Jesus, happy birthday!
There we go. Yeah, bring them on after. Yeah. Any excuse for another party, like. So you're on one level, at one level you're celebrating, but like, you've commercials coming up, and I'm just looking at it. You're only 14 shorter than you in the betting for the All Ireland, so including Kilcoo, who are actually fourth favourites despite being champions. Just shows the depth. So you've Crokes, Mike Cullen, Glen, and then this isn't even mentioned the likes of Naas and Westport and so on. Like, you're celebrating, but are you at the other level thinking we could go on to something really great here?
Yeah, look, I'd be straight up. We're not going to hide away from the fact that when you look, if you win your county, everyone dreams big. It's as simple as that. We were, we got there in 2017. Unfortunately, we came up against, Carfin and probably one of the best club teams that's been around for quite some time. 2019 again, I think we got to a semi-final again against Carfin. Probably didn't lay a glove on them that day either. But the other side of it too is that we know, look, Carmel are serious outfit. They will be going in for us after the Munster final in 2019. But I mean, look, every team that wins their county and goes out is going to dare to dream. Let's be straight up about it. We're not going to hide away from that. You're 5 games? If you win 5 games, you're an All-Ireland champion. So, as much as we're not going to get too carried away with it, I mean, look, you're not naive enough to believe that people aren't having that conversation in the group. But the other side, as you said, I mean, it's an absolute minefield when you do come out of your county. Winning Munster alone will be a huge task. So, I mean, you've got the Clonmels, the Newcastle West. I mean, these are really good teams. Like,
just finally for me, where are you with Cork at the moment?
Look, that's a conversation that I hope to have with an All-Ireland club in my back pocket. But yeah, look,
Did you hear Lee Keegan now? You can just say what he said, basically.
Yeah, he actually, if you could just kind of cut what he said on top of me as well, I think that would be a good way of doing it, yeah.
He said he's going to get another 10 years.
Well, look, physically, I'd feel great, but yeah, look, there's a few people I'd have to have a conversation with, but yeah, look, that's something I'll address. I don't want it to sound like it's some huge thing. I might even get a phone call, to be honest. You never know. So, yeah, we'll deal with that as it comes.
Watch this space. Look, finally for me, I mean, Megan qualifying for the World Cup. She's taken all the shine off you as well. But
I got my 2 days.
You got your 2 days.
And the 30th.
Yeah.
And the 30th birthday as well. Yeah.
So.
What was that like? As a brother to be watching that, I know you're trying to keep updates on your phone probably for that Scotland match, but and now you have a World Cup to look forward to as a family. I'm sure you'll head over next year.
Yeah, look, I mean, first and foremost, it's just incredible. I think the term I used in a few interviews was bizarre, but I think it doesn't even grasp the magnitude of, she's preparing for World Cup. We're having a conversation about, one of the biggest accomplishments you can have in a career. And yeah, I think what was special is the fact that we got to share it with her. Now, obviously, she would prefer to have been on the pitch that night. But no, look, it's fabulous. The father has his flights booked as is, so we'll be following fairly soon. An incredible achievement and one that we can't wait to experience and soak in. I mean, if you'd asked for your opening game at a World Cup, what it would be, I suppose, playing the host the first night is as good as you can get, really. And obviously, with the Irish contingent that is in Australia, you might get a fairly substantial green crowd over there. So, look, for her now, I think it's just about getting through the club season now, getting back fit, and trying to get her the best out of Brighton, and hopefully go into the World Cup in good form.
Yeah, I remember watching a lot of people have World Cup memories as a kid. I remember watching 02, the TV getting rolled into the classrooms. Like,
that's it. Yeah, the big TV on wheels. Yeah, I think I remember I watched the Saudi Arabia game in school. But my mother, in her wisdom, said I was sick for the Germany game and pulled me out.
Could you play a bit of ball? Could you?
I could. Look, anyone who probably listens wouldn't say that I probably thought I was better than what I was. But the problem for me is when I got better at soccer was actually because of playing senior football. So when I went back playing at kind of 19, 20, I was a bit braver, we'll say, is probably the better term. But I could play. No, look, I wasn't Megan, don't get me wrong. But in my own head, I thought I could play.
Colin Healy will be on the line anyway.
Still time.
Yeah. Well, look, there's still time. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, Luke, great stuff as always. Huge congrats again to yourself and the Nemo lads last weekend. Best luck against the Clonmel Commercials as well. And
appreciate that.
We'll check in again soon, no doubt.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Luke Connolly there, Nemo Rangers and Cork footballer. Good guy as well.